Ambassador Lee Miho pressed his face against the thick glass of the observation deck, watching something that still seemed impossible even after 3 years. The alien ship moved through space like a living jewel, its crystal surface catching Earth's sunlight and breaking it into rainbow patterns that danced across the metal walls of humanity's orbital station. The ship was nothing like the bulky, practical vessels humans built. Where human ships were all straight lines and armor plating, this visitor looked like it had grown instead of being constructed. Its surface rippled and shifted, showing colors that human eyes had never seen before. Miho had been told that the Villani, the species that built this ship, were made of living crystal themselves. Looking at their vessel now, he could believe it. "Sir, we have finished reading their message," said Commander Park Jaiwan as she walked up behind him. Her voice carried the sharp, clean sound of someone who had spent years in the military. Even though she wore a diplomatic uniform now, she still moved like a soldier ready for action. Miho turned away from the window, his weathered face showing the kind of smile he saved for truly important moments. "What do they say?" "They want us to join their group. Something called the Galactic Council. 12 different alien species, all working together for peace across the galaxy." Park handed him a tablet with the translated message displayed in neat rows of text. Miho read quickly, his smile growing wider with each line. After 3 long years of careful messages sent back and forth across the vast distance of space, the aliens finally trusted humans enough to meet face to face. The first real contact between humanity and the rest of the galaxy was about to happen. Captain Kim Tae-young looked up from his own tablet where he had been checking security plans. He was younger than the others, recently moved from his job protecting Earth to this new role in space diplomacy. Their ship is called Harmony's Light. The aliens on board are supposed to be very fragile. The message says they want us to bring as few guards as possible. Dr. Choi Minji, who had spent the last 5 years learning everything she could about alien biology, nodded as she flipped through her research notes. The Villani are made of something like living glass. The Pethri are more like walking plants. Neither of them have strong bodies like humans do. They probably think our normal security teams would be too scary for them. Miho understood their concern. Humans had evolved from hunters and fighters. Even their diplomats carried themselves like warriors. These aliens had apparently never had to fight for anything in their entire history. To them, even a friendly human probably looked dangerous. "We will be careful," Miho said. "But we cannot take any risks with this meeting. Everything we do in the next few days could decide whether humanity becomes part of the galactic community or stays alone forever." Through the window, the alien ship had finished docking. Miho could see movement through its translucent walls, shapes that did not look quite like anything on Earth. Soon, representatives from 12 different alien species would be sitting across a table from humans, trying to decide if Earth's people could be trusted with the secrets and responsibilities of an interstellar alliance. What worried Miho was something he had read in the alien messages. These species had been at peace for thousands of years. Not just peace between themselves but actual peace. No wars, no fighting, no violence at all. They had evolved on worlds where cooperation was the only way to survive, where aggression meant death for the whole community. Humans were different. Earth had produced a species that fought its way to the top of the food chain and then kept fighting each other for thousands of years more. Only in the last century had humans finally learned to work together instead of destroying each other. Even now, human society was built around competition, challenge, and the idea that conflict could sometimes solve problems that cooperation could not. The aliens probably knew this about humans from their 3 years of careful study. But knowing something in theory was very different from seeing it in person. Miho worried that when the council representatives looked at him and his team, they would not see diplomats trying to make peace. They would see predators barely keeping their hunting instincts under control. "The Harmony's Light is requesting permission to begin the transfer of passengers," announced the station's computer in its calm, mechanical voice. "Permission granted," Miho replied. He straightened his diplomatic uniform and checked his appearance one last time in the reflection from the window. "Jaiwan, make sure our security teams stay out of sight but ready to respond if needed. Tae-young, I want you personally checking every system on this station. If something goes wrong during these talks, it will not be because we were unprepared. Minji, stay close and help me understand what these aliens are really thinking." As the alien passengers began moving through the docking tunnel toward the human station, Miho felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders. Humanity had dreamed of meeting other intelligent species for centuries. Now that dream was about to become reality, and everything depended on the next few hours going perfectly. What none of the humans realized was that on the other side of that docking tunnel, 12 different species of aliens were having very similar thoughts. They had invited what they hoped was another peaceful race to join their alliance. Instead, they were about to meet the galactic equivalent of friendly monsters, and the shock of that meeting would change everything for everyone involved. 3 weeks had passed since the first meeting, and now the real test was about to begin. Ambassador Lee Miho stood in the docking bay of Earth's most impressive spaceship, watching his team make final preparations for the journey that could change humanity's future forever. Dr. Choi Minji looked up at the enormous vessel towering above them and frowned. "Are you sure we need to take the Indomitable? It seems like too much ship for a peace meeting." The Indomitable was indeed massive. Built originally as a heavy military cruiser designed to protect Earth from unknown threats, it had been converted into an exploration vessel when humanity decided to reach out to the stars instead of waiting for trouble to find them. Even in its new peaceful role, the ship still looked like exactly what it was, a weapon that had been taught to shake hands instead of fire missiles. Captain Kim Taeyong supervised a team of technicians loading diplomatic supplies into the cargo hold. "It is our best and most advanced ship," he explained to Dr. Choi. "When the Council species see our technology, they will understand that humans are serious about joining their alliance." What Captain Kim did not understand was that the ship's design told a story the humans did not mean to tell. Every line of the Indomitable's hull spoke of a species that expected trouble and had prepared for war. To the peaceful aliens of the Council, it would look less like a diplomatic vessel and more like a barely disguised threat. The human delegation was small but carefully chosen. Ambassador Lee Miho would lead the talks, supported by Dr. Choi's knowledge of alien biology and Captain Kim's technical expertise. Commander Park Jaewon would handle security, though she had been ordered to stay as invisible as possible. 8 other specialists completed the team, experts in law, culture, science, and communication who represented the best of human knowledge and skill. Each person had been selected not just for what they knew, but for how they carried themselves. Earth's government wanted aliens to see humans as confident, capable, and trustworthy. Unfortunately, what looks confident to one species might look terrifying to another. The journey to Haven's Rest took 5 days through hyperspace. During the trip, the human team practiced their presentations and studied everything they could about Council species. They prepared gifts, learned basic phrases in several alien languages, and rehearsed scenarios for every situation they could imagine. What they could not prepare for was how different their new allies would be from anything in human experience. Haven's Rest appeared on their screens like something from a dream. The station did not look built so much as grown, its walls curving and flowing like the inside of a seashell. Soft lights moved through its structure like slow lightning, and the whole thing seemed to pulse gently as if it were breathing. Where human architecture was all straight lines and right angles, this place was all curves and organic shapes that suggested comfort and peace above everything else. "It looks alive," whispered one of the human specialists as the Indomitable approached the docking bay. "Maybe it is," Dr. Choi replied, checking her instruments. Some of the Council species are known for biotechnology that blurs the line between living and mechanical. The contrast between the two vessels could not have been more obvious. The Indomitable slid into the docking bay like a knife sliding into a sheath, precise, controlled, and somehow threatening despite its peaceful mission. The station's own systems had to adjust their gentle, flowing movements to accommodate the rigid mechanical precision of human engineering. "Ambassador Lee," said a voice that sounded like music being played on crystal glasses, "welcome to Haven's Rest. I am the station's guiding intelligence. The Council representatives are waiting for you in the Harmony Chamber. They have asked that you bring only a small security escort." Ambassador Lee nodded to his team. "Commander Park, you and 2 specialists will come with us. The rest will remain with the ship." As the humans stepped off their vessel and into the alien station, something changed in the atmosphere around them. The station's gentle lighting seemed to flicker slightly, and the soft background hum of its systems shifted to a higher pitch. It was as if Haven's Rest itself was reacting to the presence of these strange new visitors. The humans walked through corridors that curved and twisted like the inside of a living thing. Their footsteps, confident and measured, echoed in ways that seemed wrong for a space designed for creatures that moved more gently. Ambassador Lee kept his shoulders straight and his head up, the way he had been taught to project authority and trustworthiness. Behind him, his team matched his pace with military precision, each step showing the discipline and coordination that had made humanity successful. What they did not know was that they were being watched from hidden alcoves and behind translucent walls. Council representatives had gathered to catch their first glimpse of the newcomers, and what they saw made them deeply uncomfortable. Lumera, the Villani delegate, was a creature made of living crystal that caught and reflected light in beautiful patterns. She stood hidden behind a curved wall, watching the humans pass, and her crystalline structure vibrated with anxiety. "Look at how they move," she whispered to the Pethri representative beside her, a being that looked like a walking flower garden. "They hold themselves like predators hunting prey." "Their eyes," added the Pethri in a voice like wind through leaves. "Did you see their eyes? They scan everything, watching for threats or opportunities. These are not the eyes of a peaceful species." The humans continued toward the Harmony Chamber, unaware that their natural confidence and alertness, qualities that had helped their species survive and thrive, were being interpreted as signs of barely controlled aggression by aliens who had never needed to fight for anything in their entire evolutionary history. The meeting that would determine humanity's place in the galaxy was about to begin, and already the two sides were misunderstanding each other in ways that could prove dangerous. The Harmony Chamber lived up to its name in every way possible. Soft light seemed to glow from the walls themselves, casting no harsh shadows anywhere in the room. The floor curved gently upward at the edges, making the whole space feel like the inside of a giant, comfortable bowl. Everything was designed to make visitors feel calm and safe, from the warm colors to the gentle hum of air circulation that sounded almost like a lullaby. 12 very different alien beings sat arranged in a perfect circle at the center of the room. Despite their varied appearances, some crystalline, some plant-like, some appearing to be made of pure light, they all shared something that was immediately obvious to anyone who looked at them. These were creatures that had never known violence, never needed to fight, never even conceived that one living thing might deliberately harm another. Ambassador Lee Miho walked into this peaceful space with his small team following behind him. He paused for a moment, taking in the serene atmosphere and the expectant faces, or what passed for faces, turned toward him. This was the moment that would determine humanity's future among the stars. "Honored representatives," he began, his voice carrying the natural authority of someone who had spent years commanding respect and attention. "Humanity is deeply grateful for this opportunity to join your coalition of peace." The reaction was instant and alarming. Several of the smaller aliens actually moved backward in their seats, as if his words had been a physical blow. The sound of his voice, confident, strong, used to being obeyed, was unlike anything they had ever heard from a peaceful species. To them, it sounded like the voice of a predator announcing its presence. Dr. Choi Minji, excited to share what she saw as humanity's greatest achievement, activated a small device that projected a holographic display into the air above the circle. "We have much to offer your alliance," she said enthusiastically. "Earth has enjoyed relative peace for nearly 80 years. Our last major global conflict ended in 2045. The words hung in the air like poison. Whispers began immediately among the council members, sounds of distress and confusion in a dozen different alien languages. The Pethri representative, Silwyn, was a beautiful creature that looked like a walking garden, with flowering branches for arms and leaves that changed color with her emotions. Now those leaves were turning the dark brown of deep fear. "Global conflict?" she repeated, her voice like wind through dying trees. "You mean, your entire species fought each other?" Captain Kim Tae-young, trying to be helpful and show that humans had learned from their mistakes, stepped forward with a reassuring smile. "Oh yes, but we have grown beyond that now. We established the Earth Defense Force to prevent any future aggression. We are completely united as a species now." His words, meant to comfort, only made things worse. Commander Park Jae-won nodded with obvious pride. "Our military integration has been remarkably successful. We have managed to convert most of our weapons manufacturing to peaceful purposes, though we maintain defensive capabilities, of course." The word weapons hit the alien delegates like a physical blow. Several of them made sounds of distress that their translation devices could not properly convert into human speech. Quinosis, the ethereal representative who appeared to be made of pure energy contained within a crystal shell, began flickering rapidly like a broken light bulb. Lamera, the Villani delegate made of living crystal, managed to speak despite her obvious terror. Her normally bright, prismatic surface had dimmed to almost gray. "When you say defensive capabilities," she ventured, her voice barely above a whisper, "what exactly do you mean?" Ambassador Lee, still completely unaware of the growing horror around him, answered in the same matter-of-fact tone he might use to discuss the weather. "Standard planetary defense systems. Orbital platforms, interceptor networks, rapid response fleets. Nothing too elaborate, but sufficient to protect Earth from potential threats." The silence that followed was so complete that the gentle hum of the station's air circulation seemed deafeningly loud. Every single alien representative sat frozen, trying to process what they had just heard. In the 50,000 years of recorded galactic history, None of their species had ever built a weapon designed to destroy another living being. The very concept was so foreign to them that their languages barely had words for it. To the council members, what the humans had just described was not a defensive system but the infrastructure of a species-wide war machine. They were looking at beings who casually discussed the tools of mass destruction as if they were talking about farming equipment. Dr. Choi, finally sensing that something was wrong but completely misunderstanding what it might be, tried to salvage the situation. Perhaps we could share some of our cultural achievements instead? We have brought examples of human art, literature, and entertainment that might interest you. The aliens exchanged glances that would have been immediately recognizable to any human as expressions of barely controlled panic. What none of them dared to say out loud was their growing realization that they had invited monsters to join their peaceful alliance. Not evil monsters perhaps, but monsters nonetheless, creatures so fundamentally different from them that they might as well have been from different universes. The cultural exchange that Dr. Choi was about to propose would only make things infinitely worse, as the aliens were about to discover that even human entertainment was built around concepts that would give them nightmares for years to come. Dr. Choi Minji smiled brightly as she activated the holographic projector, completely unaware that she was about to show the alien delegates something that would haunt their dreams for centuries. "We thought you might enjoy some of our nature programming," she said with the enthusiasm of someone sharing a favorite family photo. "This is one of our most beloved educational series." The hologram flickered to life in the center of the chamber, showing a vast grassland under a blazing sun. A group of early humans, barely clothed and carrying simple tools, moved across the landscape with steady, relentless purpose. In the distance, a massive animal, something like a giant deer with enormous antlers, grazed peacefully, unaware of the danger approaching. The documentary narrator's voice filled the chamber, calm and educational as if describing a cooking recipe. Early humans were persistence hunters. They would select a prey animal and pursue it for days, sometimes weeks, never allowing the creature to rest or eat, until exhaustion made the kill possible. The hologram showed the hunt in progress. The humans ran at a steady pace that seemed slow compared to their prey's desperate sprints, but they never stopped. When the animal rested, gasping for breath, the humans kept coming. When it tried to hide, they tracked it down. Hour after hour, day after day, the humans followed with the patience of death itself. The reaction from the council delegates was immediate and devastating. 3 of them, including a delicate crystalline being that looked like a walking chandelier, simply vanished from the chamber, their forms dissolving or teleporting away in panic. Silwen, the beautiful plant-like Pethri representative, began to wilt before their eyes, her colorful flowers closing and her leaves turning brown as if she were dying of shock. Lamera, the Villani delegate made of living crystal, started making a sound that had no name in any human language. Her entire crystalline structure vibrated at a frequency that created a harmonic scream of pure terror, a noise that made the chamber's walls ring like a bell being struck by a hammer. Ambassador Lee Miho stared at the fleeing aliens in complete confusion. He had expected questions, maybe some cultural differences to work through, but not this level of horror at what humans considered a perfectly normal nature documentary. Perhaps something more contemporary, he suggested quickly, his diplomat's training kicking in as he tried to salvage the situation. He gestured to Dr. Choi, who switched to a different recording. "This is from our historical archives, the exploration of our oceans." The new hologram showed human divers in the deep ocean, their artificial lights cutting through the dark water. Suddenly, an enormous creature emerged from the depths, a shark larger than any of the human swimmers, its mouth full of razor-sharp teeth and its black eyes showing no emotion except hunger. What happened next made the remaining aliens question everything they thought they knew about intelligent life. Instead of fleeing in terror, the human divers moved closer to the massive predator. They studied it, took measurements, attached tracking devices to its fin, and then continued their mission as if encountering a living nightmare was just another day at the office. Captain Kim Tae-young, proud of his species' achievements, provided commentary that only made things worse. "Humans have always been explorers," he said with obvious admiration. "We have conquered every environment on our planet, from the deepest ocean trenches to the highest mountains. No challenge has ever stopped us, no danger has ever turned us back." The word "conquered" hit the remaining delegates like a physical blow. To species that lived in harmony with their environments, the idea of conquering nature was as horrifying as the idea of conquering their own children. Commander Park Jae-won, still trying to be helpful and show the positive side of human culture, added her own contribution. "Our children grow up with stories of overcoming monsters and impossible odds. It builds character and teaches them to face any challenge with courage." Quinotus, the ethereal representative who appeared to be made of pure energy, flickered so frantically that his containment crystal began to crack. "Monsters?" he managed to say, his voice distorting with terror. "You teach your offspring to overcome monsters?" Dr. Choi nodded enthusiastically, still completely missing the horror in the alien's voice. "Oh yes. Classic tales that every human child knows. Stories of brave heroes defeating dragons, exploring haunted places, surviving in hostile wilderness areas. These stories teach them that with courage and determination, any obstacle can be overcome, any enemy can be defeated." What Dr. Choi described as inspirational character building, the council members heard as systematic training programs designed to create perfect predators. The stories humans told their children were not tales of cooperation and harmony, but lessons in how to hunt, kill, and dominate everything around them. As the cultural exchange continued, each new revelation made the situation exponentially worse. The humans casually mentioned their competitive sports, which sounded to the aliens like ritualized combat training. They described their love of physical challenges and extreme sports, which sounded like voluntary torture designed to build pain tolerance. They talked about their entertainment industry, which apparently thrived on stories of conflict, violence, and resolution through force. The final catastrophe came when Ambassador Lee, in what he believed was a gesture of ultimate respect and friendship, presented the council with a gift from Earth. From a special case, he withdrew a beautifully crafted sword, its blade gleaming and its handle decorated with intricate designs. "This is a ceremonial weapon from Earth's ancient history," he explained with pride, holding the sword so that the chamber's soft lighting gleamed along its edge. "In our culture, it represents protection, honor, and the willingness to defend those who cannot defend themselves." The remaining delegates stared at the weapon, an object designed for no purpose except to kill other living beings, and finally understood the true nature of what they had invited into their peaceful alliance. The chamber emptied within seconds, leaving only the most paralyzed delegates frozen in their seats and the confused humans wondering what had gone so terribly wrong. The diplomatic meeting had become a disaster of epic proportions. Half the alien delegates had fled the chamber in terror, and the remaining ones sat frozen in their seats like small animals facing a pack of wolves. Ambassador Lee Miho was desperately trying to figure out what had gone so wrong when the universe decided to throw an even bigger problem at everyone. Alarms began blaring throughout Haven's Rest, a sound that cut through the awkward silence like a knife. The station's gentle musical AI voice suddenly became sharp and urgent, all traces of its previous calm politeness gone. "Emergency alert to all stations and vessels," the AI announced. "Massive asteroid detected on direct collision course with the Pethry homeworld of Verdania. Impact calculated in 14 hours and 27 minutes. All available vessels are requested to assist with evacuation operations immediately." The few council delegates who had remained in the chamber after the cultural presentation disaster immediately began displaying what could only be described as the most sophisticated panic ever witnessed. They moved in circles, made distressed sounds in their various alien languages, and seemed completely unable to decide on any course of action. Silwyn, the Pethry representative whose own homeworld was about to be destroyed, began wilting even faster than before. Her flower-like appendages drooped, and her leaves turned from their normal healthy green to a sick yellow color. "My people," she whispered, her voice like wind through dying grass. "Billions of my people." The other delegates clustered around her, making comforting sounds, but it was obvious that none of them had any idea what to do. These were species that had never faced a crisis requiring violence of any kind, even violence against a lifeless chunk of rock that was about to commit genocide. Lamera, the crystalline Villani delegate, resonated with harmonics of despair. "We have evacuation ships, but not enough. Not nearly enough. And even if we could save everyone, where would they go? Verdania is their only home." It was at this moment that Captain Kim Taeyong stepped forward, his military training taking over automatically. While the aliens panicked, his mind was already working on the problem with the cold efficiency of a professional soldier. "How large is the asteroid?" he asked the station's AI, his voice cutting through the chaos with absolute authority. "Approximately 12 kilometers in diameter," came the immediate response. "Composition? Dense iron-nickel core with silicate exterior. Current velocity is 47 kilometers per second relative to Verdania." Kim turned to his team without a moment's hesitation, his movements sharp and decisive. "Commander Park, I need tactical assessments on intercept possibilities. Dr. Choi, give me environmental impact projections for the homeworld. Ambassador Lee, we need immediate authorization from Earth Command to engage in hostile action." The transformation in the humans was incredible to witness. Seconds before, they had been confused diplomats wondering why their peaceful overtures had caused such terror. Now they moved like parts of a single, deadly machine, each person knowing exactly what their role was and executing it with perfect coordination. Commander Park Ji-won was already accessing her portable computer, her fingers flying over the controls as she pulled up star charts and calculated orbital mechanics. Optimal intercept window closes in 7 hours and 43 minutes, she reported. After that, debris scatter becomes unpredictable. Dr. Choi Minji had switched from xenobiologist to crisis analyst in the span of a heartbeat. Impact of this size will cause planet-wide extinction, she announced grimly. Even if we break it up, the debris field will still cause massive damage unless we can deflect the pieces away from the planet entirely. Ambassador Lee was speaking rapidly into his communication device, his diplomatic voice replaced by the crisp tones of someone used to making life-and-death decisions under pressure. Earth Command, this is Diplomatic Mission Alpha. We have a planetary emergency situation requiring immediate military intervention. Request authorization for kinetic engagement of asteroid threat. The response came within 30 seconds, which told the watching aliens something important about how human government worked during a crisis. Authorization granted, Ambassador. Protect our new neighbors. Captain Kim was already moving toward the door, his team following behind him like a well-trained unit. The Indomitable carries kinetic interceptors specifically designed for asteroid deflection, he called over his shoulder. We can destroy the object completely, but we need to begin our approach within the next hour for optimal effectiveness. The remaining council delegates watched in stunned amazement as the humans transformed before their eyes. These were the same beings who had terrified them with casual mentions of weapons and warfare, but now that terror was directed at something that actually deserved it. The monsters they had been afraid of were preparing to fight a real monster, a lifeless chunk of rock that would kill billions of innocent people if left unchecked. Silwan looked up at the departing humans, her wilted flowers beginning to show tiny spots of color again. You would do this? She asked, her voice barely audible. You would risk your lives for people you have never met, on a world you have never seen? Ambassador Lee paused at the doorway and looked back at her. For the first time since the meeting began, his expression was gentle rather than commanding. Of course we would, he said simply. That is what neighbors do for each other. As the humans rushed toward their ship to begin what might be a suicide mission to save an alien world, the council delegates finally began to understand what they had really invited into their peaceful alliance. Not monsters but guardians. Not conquerors but protectors. The galaxy's first and hopefully last line of defense against the darkness that even peaceful civilizations sometimes had to face.